I speak to you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Please be seated. Well, good morning. I hope you're all doing well, enjoying these hot summer days. I've gotten to get away some on vacation, and then last week I was at Lakeshore, but I have to say it's good to be back at what I call big church. Big church. So I don't know about you, but I enjoy watching the World Cup. I know not all Americans enjoy soccer, but I played soccer growing up. And with high-def TVs, I actually love watching it. And today at 11 o'clock is the World Cup final. So some of y'all are probably wanting a short sermon. And I was thinking something light, something brief. I'm all for it. And I was planning on it anyway. But then I got to the gospel this week, and what do we get? The beheading of John the Baptist, right? Well, that's not light material. Don't worry, it's not going to be too long. But, I mean, John the Baptist story is heavy stuff. I had this image of John the Baptist's head on a silver platter being served up, seared into my brain. I don't think it was in a children's Bible growing up. Maybe it's that Caravaggio painting. You know, do you have that image, though? It's a deeply disturbing image. It's disturbing. Not exactly a kid's Bible story, this lesson. Beheading John the Baptist. It's quite disturbing. And for Mark's gospel, it is actually very unique. Because if you've ever studied Mark, Mark tells the story in a hurry. Mark tells the story in a hurry. He's always like, immediately, Jesus and the disciples went here, or immediately they did this. And yet here in the middle of Mark's gospel is this dark and very detailed story about Herod. It's all about Herod. As if Mark slows down in order to tell us this grisly story about Herod and John the Baptist. In fact, it's the only story in Mark's gospel that is not about Jesus. It's the only one. So what is Mark getting at? What is Mark getting at? Some scholars say that this is inserted as a reminder of the cost of discipleship. Think back to last week. Immediately preceding this, the disciples are sent out 2 by 2 to evangelize, right? To go spread the word. So maybe Mark is telling us this story as a reminder that discipleship is not to be taken lightly. There is a cost. And then there's also this idea that there's a foreshadowing of what is going to happen to Jesus, being executed by a sovereign who is, he's complicit but somewhat reluctant to the execution. Both of these, good explanations, but the more I think about it, the more I think Mark is giving us a really big picture that can be used as a contrast between the way we see the world, two worlds, the way we see the world. See, the rest of Mark is all about Jesus and the possibilities that are given to us when we see the world as children of God, when we live knowing that we are God's beloved. And then Mark inserts this story about another kind of world, a world I believe that we are all too familiar with. Our world as we mostly experience it, a world that is dominated by power grabs, immoral behavior, and the need to save face through it all. A world that operates under the rule that might is right, no apologies. See, Mark is presenting us with two ways of living in the world. A world in which Jesus' love abounds, and then the other world in which our darker sides reign, represented by the story of King Herod. In Herod's world, being right is the most important thing. In Jesus' world, being loving is the most important thing. In Herod's world, being right is the most important thing. In Jesus' world, being loving is the most important thing. See, Herod said something foolish, right? He said, I'll give you whatever you wish, half my kingdom even. Well, that's a pretty dumb thing to say, isn't it? I mean, Herod's big character flaw, and history tells us he had plenty of them, but in this story, Herod's big character flaw is that he can't admit he's wrong. He can't admit he's wrong. He shouldn't have said that. Nope, he has to be right all the time, in control all the time, as if he's always correct. Remember that old deodorant commercial? Never let him see you sweat? That's Herod. That's Herod. So before I went to seminary, I worked for a company called Ecolab. Good job, good company. And before I worked for Ecolab, I worked for an insurance company that was not a good fit for me. Did not enjoy that job. I was very unhappy at the insurance job. And so when this opportunity came for me to work for Ecolab, I was super excited. I knew it'd be a better fit for me. More money, company car, just overall some things that I really wanted. So I meet my future boss, Jerry Turner, who's interviewing me. And this is a long interview process, right? We spent a couple of days together working down in Atlanta. I worked in Chattanooga, but worked down in Atlanta mostly. And so he's explaining what all this job entails. Went around to some stores, met some potential clients. After a couple days, I'd gotten to know Jerry very well. He's a good guy. He was a Mormon, so we would sit there and have conversations constantly back and forth, exploring each other's ideas about faith and religion. Second day, we've been riding together. We're pretty tired. It's late at night. We need to get some dinner. Well, the only thing that's open right there is a Buffalo Wild Wings. Are you familiar with Buffalo Wild Wings? Okay, it's a restaurant. It's a wing place. Now, I've been to a Buffalo Wild Wings before when I lived in Chattanooga, usually to watch football while enjoying a cold beverage. And I've had their wings before. I like them hot. They have like 12 different flavors. So I like hot sauce. I like hot stuff. So I normally get the hot wings. And usually they were okay, good flavor, but enough fire to give you that little sweat, you get right here. Just enough fire, the way I like them. Not too hot, good flavor, but just a little sweat. Well, we get to this restaurant in Atlanta. Jerry orders a burger, something like that. I order some wings. I order the hottest kind. Now, the server says, he looks at me, he says something like, "You like them hot? You like them real hot?" And I reply, "Yeah, man, I like hot stuff. Go ahead, I'll be good." He said, "Okay." Now, I should have picked up on his veiled warning, but we'd been working really hard, and I was tired, I was exhausted. So our food arrives. They put the burger down in front of Jerry. They put my wings down. Now, not only is steam coming off of these things, but they are swimming in hot sauce, and I mean swimming. And it's so hot, as soon as it sits down, my sinuses just clear. Now, my hopefully future boss, he looks at me, he says, "You okay with that? That looks pretty crazy, man." I've ordered what I've ordered, though, right? I'm sure not going to back down now. I mean, what would it look like? The man can't even eat the hot wings that he ordered. No way. This is not a time to show weakness, right? So I tell him, "Hey, man, I eat these all the time. No big deal." I pick one up, sink my teeth into it. My eyes must have gotten insanely huge, right? They were the hottest thing I've ever put in the hottest thing I've ever eaten. And I've eaten ghost peppers. Those are hot. This was hotter. I don't know what the cook in the kitchen was doing or why he was angry, but he was taking it out on me. He was taking it out on me. So I get that first wing down. I eat it. Sweat just breaks out all over my face. I mean, I'm dripping. My lips are on fire. You ever had that? The lips are on fire. I'm drinking water. I'm taking those ice cubes and just holding them in my teeth so it'll cool my lips. But I continued on. Jerry asked me again, "Are you okay?" Again, I answered, "Oh, these are great. This is how I like them. Just how I like them." I sat there and ate every single one of those wings. When I was done, my shirt was drenched. My fingers were burning. I was crying, wiping the tears out with hopefully a clean napkin that didn't have hot sauce on it. It was the most painful dinner I've ever had. It made me sick that night. It was painful. So I get the job. A couple of months, I'm working with Jerry again, and he says something to me. He says, "I almost didn't hire you." And I asked him why. He said, "Because you wouldn't stop eating those wings." I thought, here's a guy that won't admit he made a mistake. I can't have somebody working for me that won't admit to making mistakes. I asked him what changed his mind. He laughed and said, "Well, I figured you must really want this job, so you'll work really hard." But he said, "But still, man, all you had to do was send the wings back. All you had to do was send them back. Admit that I made a mistake." Jesus offers a way out of Herod's way of seeing the world. Jesus offers a way out of Herod's way of seeing the world. Jesus offers us a world of possibilities. With Jesus, we don't have to be right all the time. In fact, we are commanded to say about certain things, I was wrong. I am sorry. I misspoke. Let me try this again. I'll say it again. With Jesus, we are commanded to say, I was wrong. I am sorry. I misspoke. Let me try this again. Jesus gives us a world in which we don't have to be right all the time. Mistakes do happen. Bad judgment does happen. We say some dumb stuff. I say dumb stuff, but it's not about being right. It's not about being right. For Jesus, it's about being loving. It's about being loving. And if we can let that sink in, and I mean really sink in, we can realize that the world that Jesus is giving us it's a world where it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. What a blessing to live in that world. What a joy to live in that world. There's freedom in that world. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Let's cut each other some slack. Certainly not encouraging or sanctioning bad behavior. That's not what I'm talking about. But allowing for mistakes to be made, knowing that we can stop going down the path we're going, turn around, we can send the wings back. So take some time today. Be thankful that God gives us a world with endless possibilities, not a disastrous fate, not a fate that leads to death like John the Baptist, but a world in which we can back up, say sorry, try again. Maybe as we get down on our knees this morning at the confession, ask yourself a question. Do you need to back up, say sorry, try again? Do you need that from God today? It's okay if you do. It's okay if you do. Or maybe a harder question to ask yourself. Who has fallen short in relationship with you? Two worlds. There are two worlds, two ways of seeing this world, right? There's Herod's way and Jesus' way. What's your response? Amen.